The word that I would describe the most recent economic data from China is progress. And I think in the current environment, most people will focus specifically on a set of data. So over the last 2 days, you've seen numerous analysts, commentators, specifically looking just at the third quarter economic data from China. What's more important for me, and I think what's more important when you're looking at the Chinese economy, is to consider the direction and the planning of what those data points represent. And what do I mean by that? And why do I say progress? You have to go back to 2017 at a point which I think is extremely important. It's a point that I like to make to most American investors, people looking at the Chinese economy. And it was during the 19th Party Congress when Xi Jinping made a very important statement that it was time for China to move from growth at all cost to quality growth. And what he meant by that, or at least what I view as his meaning of that statement, was that there was a recognition that the economic model prior to 2017, I would even argue prior to that, was heavily dependent on real estate, property, and what's called infrastructure, roads, bridges, airports, so on and so forth. That economic had reached a point where it was no longer sustainable for long-term growth and truly what I think to be the benefit of long-term stability within the Chinese economy. His point was that the Chinese policymakers needed to move towards new growth models. And that's why when you look at the third quarter numbers, I have seen progress. If you look at a lot of the news reporting outside of China, there's been a big focus on a reduction in what is called fixed asset investment. And this is investments that are made in things like railroads, bridges, and so on and so forth. This, for me, is actually a net positive because there has been and there continues to be a move away from this old economic model that was highly dependent on real estate and infrastructure towards what is now referred to as the fourth industrial revolution, meaning things like electric vehicles, robotics, biomedicines, all of the new growth drivers for the future, not just in China, but globally. The challenge, but also the opportunity, has always been how to get from point A to point B. How can you go from an old economic model that was dependent on real estate and other sorts of investments to a new economic model that is more dynamic, one that is much more future-oriented without disrupting the overall economic growth and the economic outlook for the entire country? So it's the way that I try to explain it is if you're driving in a car going 100 kilometers an hour, can you jump to another car? You have to let both cars kind of get to the same path. That's where I see China right now economically. So yes, there's a lot of commentary with regard to this one specific period of 3 months that's called third quarter. But if you're able to step back, or as we like to say, zoom out and look much more broadly at the progress that has been made moving from one economic model to a new economic model, I'm quite optimistic. And it's no easy task. So as long as there continues to be progress, I think China will continue to move in a very, very positive direction.